Welcome to Serial Podcast 9.
You want to start the episode?
Okay.
Or do we want to chat some more?
I'm Gerard Peralta.
And I'm Kevin Peterson.
And I'm Ryan Benoit. And this is Serial Podcast 9, episode 52.
52.
That's how many weeks there are in a year. We've done it.
Now we can finally retire.
Exactly. We're finally at retirement age.
Oof, good. What are you going to do with your retirement?
Oh God.
Build cat trees.
I gotta figure out how to make enough money to have a fucking retirement, buddy. That's where I'm at.
Start betting on your squash games, and then you'll be fine.
Start selling all my cars and shit.
No, don't do that. Hey, that's actually one of our questions.
That's a short-term solution. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a short-term solution. Is that okay? So that actually brings us to our first question.
Okay.
It's from Good Boy, which is Good Boy _media, but Good Boy has an exclamation point at the end. So I should say sound more excited when I say it. So it's from Good Boy. Is that how you anyway, okay.
I'd be more like good boy.
Oh yeah, that's a better one. We'll use that take. Okay.
Good boy.
All right, perfect. Good Boy reached out and he said, I have another podcast question that may not be fun enough. No such thing. We'll get something out of it. Anyway, but I'd appreciate wisdom from people that have been doing it longer.
Doing it.
Yeah,
doing it well.
Okay.
Represent Queens. She was raised over. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. When do you consider selling your drift car? My wife and I bought a house. We're starting our life and all that. I have no time to drift anymore. It just sits there and I'm like, damn, that could remodel our basement.
When do you sell your drift car?
Yeah. And so the thing is, I have no time to drift anymore. It just sits and I'm like, damn, that could remodel our basement.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's like a valid question that people struggle with all the time, you know?
Yeah,
and it feels like that's like a perfect question for now too. Like,
I mean, I feel like
the money's not flowing like it was.
That's a great question for me because I do have the family, the house, the kids, the whole 9 yards. I feel like it's like less sort of related to you. I mean, maybe if you want to buy a house, then yeah, it's trying. But like, the only thing is for us, for Kevin and I, it's a bit of a different situation because our drift cars are kind of paid for by the company.
So related to the business, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally get it. I kind of feel like, yeah, maybe if it wasn't part of the business, then.
Oh yeah. If it wasn't part of the business, I wouldn't have a dedicated drift car. I mean, I currently don't have a dedicated drift car, but like I certainly would not have a dedicated drift car. Not a chance. It's just, it's expensive now. It's too expensive. And like,
I mean, if it's your hobby, then it's your hobby and that's what you like to do with your spare time and your money. But like, if you have a lot of hobbies, it's a very expensive hobby to have.
Yeah. I feel like I would have to have a car personally that was like a street car that I take drifting because I just wouldn't be able to enjoy the drift car as much with all their family responsibilities. I would probably say that the responsibility sort of aspect is very relatable to me because I can't drift as much as I want, for sure. I definitely can't drift as much as you, Kevin. Kevin has been to, I don't know how many fucking drift events this year. And even if I did have a car, I wouldn't have been able to go to a lot of those. Like,
yeah, I literally think I've only been to 3 drift events this year, but just 2 of them have been in like the last month.
Yeah. So Villains, I wouldn't have been able to go to because that's like a 2-day commitment.
Yeah.
The island was also pretty much a 2-day commitment. Yeah. I might have been able to make the island because my wife goes to the island and, you know, they go to the island once in a while. So I could have maybe like swung it and gone and just like hung out there after or whatever.
I think for this guy though, it's like more of a monetary thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like Ryan is that person, but it's not a drift car.
Yeah. No, for sure.
It has drifted that one time, but I wasn't driving it. I was going to say, I feel like we've kind of answered this question before, and it's interesting because now the answer has slightly shifted, and I thought we would give the same answer. The other side of this is that when we answered it the first time, Kevin, your answer was like, if you're going to sell your car, you have to know what you're going to do with that money. Otherwise, that money it's going to just slowly disappear. You're going to spend it on a bunch of different things.
Yeah, you get nickel
and
and all of a sudden you got none of it left.
Yeah, and you're like, now I don't have a car or anything to really show for
or
it.
a basement.
Or a basement. Now, the thing with the basement is that doing your basement is kind of like actually an investment. I guess you'd be building equity in some cases, right? Like, or not equity, sorry. You'd be raising the value of your property, which would then be like probably an actual investment. So that is a tough thing. But when do you sell your drift? I would say it depends on what level of drift car you have. So if you have a full-on dedicated, like you can't drive it on the street ever drift car, and it can only be trailered to the track, and you don't drift anymore, then maybe you shouldn't have it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think having the car that can go on the street, and maybe this is why I'm such a big advocate.
I mean, the first car's a boat at that point, you know? If you can't drive it on the street and it needs a trailer to go anywhere, it's basically a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you've moved essentially to a place that has no water near it if you have no drift events. So like, you know, yeah, I would say that if it's a streetable car, and then I would hold on to it. And I would say that's what I did. There was a point in my life where June had to go to daycare and it was very expensive, and selling the Aristo probably would have helped with that. Like, I kind of knew, it was like, if I sell the Aristo, I don't know how I'm ever getting back into the car game, like how I would ever have money to build a car like that again.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like,
and that probably didn't even account to the fact that like it's gone up so much in value in that amount of time too.
Yeah, and it didn't, right? Like at that time, I was like, oh, maybe it's like 12,000 or 13,000, and now it would be more money. At that time, you're like, yeah, maybe I can come back and buy an Altezza, because like at that point, Altezzas were like $6,000 or something, and you're like, all right, but will I love that as much as the Aristo? Probably not. The moral of the story is, I feel like I made a lot of sacrifices so I could hold on to the car. I mean, I stopped driving it for a very long time because I knew that if I drove it and it broke and it incurred a cost, I'd be more likely to want to sell it. I knew that like plating it or insuring it was money, gas for it was money. So it was like I kind of just tucked it away. And at that point, I think I drove it like twice a year, and that was fine. I would say you don't sell your car if it's a street car. I honestly, because unless it's like a really like beat up car, maybe, but like, it
feels like there's a million variables, but yeah, I totally agree. It's like, if you're not using your purpose built drift car, there's no real purpose for it, you know? But like you said, if you have some sort of car that you're able to drive on the street in your area and use it for more than one use, then there's more reason to hold on to it, right? If you can go get ice cream and go on dates with it, then like, why not keep it, right? But
I mean, I just take the Aristo to like car shows and meets and other things, right? Like,
because you just want to get ice cream.
That's right, I do.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I feel like obviously there are a lot of factors involved. If you can get a good amount of money out of it, and you are needing the money for some sort of investment in maybe like a bigger picture, like your life. And like you said, it is an investment in the house. Maybe you're going to sell this house and level up to get a new house. And then, maybe you could buy and sell a few houses, and then maybe you'll have a bit more time or money later to have a drift car and go drifting. It's all kind of a balance, really, your life of like your hobbies, your family life, your business or work life, and all that shit, right? But I mean, it sounds like he kind of knows the answer to the question already, but
I disagree. I think you keep your car unless you can't. Yeah, no, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like Kevin said, if it's a dedicated drift car and you're not drifting it, like it is just a boat. It's a beautiful boat parked in your driveway that takes up space, and you kind of never get to use it, right? So,
It is funny though, because
But
like,
then if you were Ryan, you know what I mean? You're like, you could have had that mentality and been like, all right, sold off the Aristo, got your 8K, and now all of a sudden it's 3 years later and it's worth 16, and you're like, man, I should have just, you know, held, like if I would have held on to it for a tiny bit more, like that investment was worth way more, or like maybe
I
now
mean,
you're in a position to enjoy it a bit more, you know. But
what if you buy like a $850,000 house and you do like a $15,000 reno in the basement, turn it into a suite or whatever, sell the house for 1.2 million or 1 million. I mean, you've made a significantly more amount of money than the car was worth.
yeah, I mean, I think your numbers are a bit optimistic, but yeah.
I mean, I don't think so at all. Like,
How are you going to put a suite in for $15,000?
maybe it already had a room and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, anything's possible, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it is. I mean, yeah, the numbers could be inflated, but the numbers could be totally accurate. But definitely, like if you put $15,000 into a home, you're definitely getting more than $15,000 worth of value. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, we talked about, you know, you got to have a home. You can't, you know, you can't just sell your home and have no home. Like,
but he just said he has a house and they need a basement rental.
Yeah, but you're talking about just flipping the
be.
house for more money and getting a different house. But it's like you always got to have one house.
I do like that this has become a real estate.
It's like a car.
Yeah. Hang on. I've looked at his account, so I can say he has an IS 300 that fully looks like it's streetable. It looks pretty cool. Unless you can think of a car that you want or would enjoy more.
Well, I mean, maybe that's one thing too. Is like,
affordable.
you know, like if you're selling your car and you have a $70,000 like FD build, that maybe that's a bit different than selling like a $2,500 shell or something, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably it's in decent shape. It's a nice looking IS.
I mean, if you're talking about selling this car, I have to say no. I mean, this is fully a street car.
Yeah,
and it's a cool car. Like you could definitely just like rip this thing around and go drifting once in a while, or just rip around and go to car. I mean, also like I don't know how much. It really depends on how much money you're getting for it. It has to be worth it, right? Like if like kind of like what Kevin's saying, like if you're selling your drift car for 10K and you kind of piss it away or you do like one or two things, it's like now you don't have a drift car or fucking the 10 grand. Like if you're doing a reno and you're doing whatever, like flipping the car into a reno to invest in your home, that's I think a good idea. If that's what you want to do, like if you want your house to be worth more, you know what I mean? But like
I do think that we're saying this, and I haven't really. I'm strong on the keep your car. That's my thing. But we're saying this, and we're really weighing it out. And all three of us are not at different points in our life, but we're older. We have different things going on. You know, everyone's got their own struggles. Yet we've all managed to hold on to at least one car that we care about. And now you go down the line and it's like Gerard is saying all this stuff, but Gerard literally has probably like 4 or 5 cars right now. Like Gerard, how many cars do you have right now?
Jesus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I think it's 9.
It's not 9.
It's 9.
Well, I mean, like you got the 200s, you got the BMW,
yeah,
you got the Stagia,
yeah,
you got the G35.
Oh shit!
You got the Xterra.
Yeah.
You got the QX.
Yeah.
That's 7.
And then the Blip.
And you got a motorcycle.
And a motorcycle. Yeah.
Like,
where's that 8?
So with the
just buy another thing and call it 9.
With the
but I mean, you're
9,
failing to mention that 1, 2, 3, 4 of those cars are for sale. 4 of those cars are to make money with.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying that, like, I can't picture.
We still got to say it for comedic relief.
Yeah. Also, I can't picture, like, I know there was a point in your life for SerialNine when you started, you didn't have a car.
That's right.
Like, crazy about. And then you got back into it. But I can't picture you now at this stage in your life
without a car,
not having a car that you care about. Like, I can't just picture Gerard being like, well, I'm going to just hop in the Sienna now and I drive that all the time.
No, I would kill myself. 100%.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like
I've literally been there. Because when we started Serial 9, I had to sell my 147 Aristo, and that was the last sort of like.
I mean, you had the X8 for a bit while we had the
I had the X8, which I had to sell. I sold that. I mean, I was sort of selling that to build a better car or some shit, and then I just pissed that money away into our business. No, I didn't piss it away, put it into our business.
You invested in yourself.
And then, and then that sort of, I mean, like it's a bit harsh. It's a bit harsh personally, because like you take this money that you made and this car that you built, and then you put it into a business, which I mean, you own, but like now I didn't have a car. I was driving like a fucking 2001 Civic, which was just like, knife to the throat kind of thing. Right. And then I still had the Aristo for a bit, which was sick, but then I was going to have a kid. So I was like, well, fucking, I don't really need this like lowered single turbo, whatever. I just need a car to get around. And I have this business now. So like, this is what I'm focusing on. And that was the point in which I sold that car. I mean, it wasn't a drift car, but it was my last like cool car. And then for a long time, I don't even know what the fuck I drove, just that 2001 Civic.
Yeah, and then until you got the Stagia.
Yeah, I sold that in order to get the Stagia, which, I think we were probably doing a little bit better by then. So I had the C34 Stagia, but then I had to sell that. Life happened, and then I had to give that up. And then I had the Aristo, which was then we were kind of like Serial 9 was kind of doing better. And then I built the Aristo.
It actually probably really comes down to like what type of car guy you are.
Which one of
the 9 types?
Yeah,
9 types of car guys.
Because as we said, there are fully people that will like stop by the car scene, build a car, and and then they're totally fine to go on and now they're a DJ, or now they, whatever, they're back into biking or
Brazilian jiu-jitsu,
hiking. They're doing something. But
now I'm into drones.
I would say maybe what I touched on earlier and maybe didn't actually fully say is that, and Good Boy did say this, is like, you guys are all further along in it. It's like, we are all further along in it. And I do think it's fair to say that the three of us couldn't imagine not having a car that we actually cared about in our life at some point, like an outlet for the interest. Because like my hobbies are all based around cars. I don't do other things. So if I take away having a cool car, I have work
you don't play squash, bro.
Yeah, maybe I would take up squash. No, I'd have to get a membership to a country club, though. How am I going to do that? Gerard would have to sponsor me.
I mean, you got the Prius, bro.
Yeah,
there you go.
The Prius is it's a 2010, though. They're not going to take that.
True. That's true.
But I mean, you're also vegan, so that's 2 points. You got like a car and a vegan.
Yeah.
You got tattoos. They're like, diversity.
And you work at a tech company.
Oh, yeah. The white guy does it. I don't check any diversity.
No, I meant like you're not like a standard white guy. You're not like, polo wearing.
Have you ever seen me wear a polo top?
No.
I've seen you wear a polo top.
Yeah, I know.
So he said you're not the standard.
Yeah, you're not the
standard. Oh, I thought you said
like
you wear that. I was like,
like Euro douche country club guy.
Right.
I mean Euro.
They wouldn't let me in.
So they're like, we gotta let some more of these like hipster tattoo type dudes in is what that's the diversity. Yeah,
that's on everyone's list of things that they need to we really need to diversify this portfolio with more white dudes.
An old wooden ship.
And it's just a regular gym that anybody can go to. So
no, Gerard, we've already built it up in people's mind that you belong to an exclusive country club.
Yeah. I don't have a horse, bro. That's not exclusive.
As I was saying, it's funny that because the thing is like we're all, there's a sense of giving this advice. It's like, you could like make money off of it and you put it into your house and that would make sense. But none of us are fucking doing that.
We're just dump it all into Bitcoin, man. Come on, sell that car, dump it into Bitcoin. You buy a Lambo when you're done.
I mean, I feel like I've sort of made some of those moves, but I've had the opportunity to kind of like get a bit ahead to make those moves. Like I was able to buy cars to sell them to make money to put into my house. But like,
yeah, you were a hustler. You were hustling. Is this like do as I say, not as I do situation is what you're kind of saying? Because I feel like that's what it is. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think like you said, it kind of all depends on what kind of car guy you are too. Because it's like if you're like a lifer, it's like you're probably going to be like, oh, I'll just eat the ramen noodles and like keep the car and like do the basement over the next 5 years or something. You know?
Yeah, you figure it out so you can keep the car.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but like, I mean, if you're already like, I don't really need the car, and like, you know, then maybe you don't need the car.
Or if you don't like the car anymore, but
that's true. I mean, I would have sold that G35 to buy a Slurpee. You know, like.
Well, okay, so there was a point where I was going to sell the Blit. Remember, I was like, oh yeah, like I don't really like this thing. I could definitely use the money because the Blit is pretty much my car. I mean, it definitely has some SerialNine like investment in it, but I would say like as far as like cars go in my collection or whatever, the Blit is basically mine. Like if I sold it, most of the money would come to me. And I was like thinking, oh yeah, I'll just sell that and then, you know, use the money or whatever. But then I sort of like pushed through and didn't. And then I was kind of really happy I didn't. Really like now I just drive it on the street. However, like side note, when I drove it home today, I'm thinking, man, like do I really need this car? I was like, I like it and stuff, but like, would I like this better than like a Porsche or like a you know like a crazy new car that was like sort of the same but like had way more shit? So I don't know, but yeah. Anyways, but I kept it.
But that's the thing. You would replace the Blit with another car that you wanted.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, like, do I want a Porsche? And it's like, yes, of course you want a Porsche.
But I mean, at the same time, I put a body kit in the back of my like sick car today and like brought it all home and shit. I couldn't do that in a Porsche. I couldn't put bikes in a Porsche. I mean, I guess you have a truck as well that you like sometimes drive. Yeah, currently not driving that, but yeah.
You have an array of cars to choose from. Your wife also has a van that you can borrow if you really needed to move something. You know,
That's
like,
true, yeah.
But you're like, you don't have to put it all on the Blit. That actually brings me to.
Well, I was kind of thinking like, because I had this thought, if you will, recently where it's like, I was driving the Altezza a bunch, like more than I have ever, sort of recently, and it's like. It's a pretty harsh car, you know, it's extremely loud and like everything is solid and the clutch is crazy and like, but you drive that thing for the weekend and like you get used to it.
Yeah.
And then you come home and I jump in the 17 Crown, which has like a welded diff and a twin plate clutch and like all this other stuff. And it also has a JZ. It's just like not quite as crazy. Doesn't have all of the bushings and all of the arms. So it's a little bit tamer. And it's like, wow, this car is like super nice and super tame. And then you hop in the 18 Crown and it's like completely stock. And you're just like, you know, what even is this thing? And it's like, I don't know, like which one of those, if I had to sell one of those cars, like, I don't know which one I'd get rid of because they all are different and they all feel like they like have a niche, if you will, you know?
Yeah. I know which one you would sell. You would sell the Altezza, but then you'd make the 17 into like another version of the Altezza. It would just be like the harsh race car. And then the 18 Crown would be like eventually your street car.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
I think you would always have a harsh car.
Yeah, you're totally
right. As a side, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast. My favorite thing is driving behind Kevin's car.
Because it's so loud.
Because it sounds cool. It's cool to look at, but then also it's like that car in the wild gets so much attention. Like people just like it sounds gnarly, and then you turn and you're like, holy shit, that car's pink and low and like it's got, you know, like crazy 3-spoke wheels on it. And then you just, if you're behind them, you just get like the residuals of like look, there's another kind of neat car. But
the whiplash effect.
Yeah, they're like, oh, there's actually 2 of them. But yeah, that's one of the payoff of driving behind Kevin. He's like the trumpet that goes before everything. That's like, and then they know to look. All right. So
look at me.
before I do this next thing, what would we tell Good Boy? I would say keep his IS looks cool.
I would say keep it.
Yeah, You actually, Jordan Hall said this, and I always appreciated it. I don't know if he still feels this way. Jordan Hall he was for people who don't know, and I don't know if it's relevant or not, but he was in the drift team Hot Boys, and he had an SR Miata. It was at Final Bout 1. Anyway, Jordan parted that car, and he bought an FD from Japan. So he had an RX-7 FD, and it was pretty cool. And eventually he decided he would sell that car. And it was like, and it was JDM inflation, like you still thought you were getting good dollar for it because it was an FD. So you're like, oh, like 14 to 16,000 for this car is really great. And he sold it. And I think the thought was after it was like, man, I can't believe I sold that car. You can always find another way to get more money, but I'll never get that car back.
Yeah, that is an absolute truth. That is an absolute truth. I mean, honestly, I've sold literally everything in my entire life for money. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but like there was always something I needed this money for, and I would just sell whatever I had. And that's honestly one of the reasons why I forced myself to keep the Blit, because a lot of shit, like you don't get it back. Like the yellow car, for example, it's like I didn't really need to fucking sell that car at that time. And yeah, I parted it out. I had bigger plans, and there's always something better. Like grass is always greener on the other side. But sometimes you got to take a step back and just kind of like commit to the thing. Like maybe you're committing to keeping that drift car, and it'll, you know what I mean? Maybe you just find another way to make the 10 or 15,000 for your basement reno, and then you get to keep the car too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels like cars are like a bit of a relationship, and sometimes relationships are work, and sometimes you gotta
go to counseling to keep your car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what he's doing right now. He's listening to 3 old fucks that tell him, well, you gotta keep the car, man.
Well, man, I was thinking
never gonna get that car back, dude.
I mean, I'm terrible for that though. To me, it's like it literally is just a car. Like I don't know. Like,
but I mean, you never sell anything. Like you've sold 2 cars or some shit? Like ever?
Because I just wreck my stuff.
Yeah, it's like
if Kevin can't have them, nobody
gets it.
Because I'm always level up or level up across.
I've sold lots of wheels and stuff where I'm like, man, I wish I never sold those wheels.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've done that.
Remember those 18-inch Meister SP1s that I had that were like that brown face that I was going to put on the Altezza? We put them on with the wide body, and then I just sold them. Never mounted them ever.
Yeah. S1, Meister S1Rs.
Yeah, I was thinking about those wheels the other day.
Oh shit! I totally didn't remember those wheels.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, and then also recently when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, maybe I'd switch up the Solvex, but I'm like, man, I feel like I'm at a point in life where I'm like, I don't have to sell these in order to get the next thing.
Yeah, that was my problem always, man.
Yeah, it was like you always had to sell what you had to get the next thing that you want.
You know what's funny too is I sold the Sparcos back then for whatever, and then I ended up getting them back, and then also I sold all my MAEs, and I literally just bought a set of MAEs to get them back, and I'm building another set of MAEs to get them back. It's like, I could have just not sold any of that shit because I was like a poor fuck back then.
Yeah. But I mean, then it's like, I don't know. I still have 15 by 10 4-lug wheels. It's like, are they doing anything for me? Like, no. Am I going to have a car that can fit them? Like, maybe, but is that going to be 10 years from now? Like, someone could be enjoying them.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows?
I think this is a weird insight. I think I sometimes have a dream that I still own my 180, and I'm always really excited in that dream. That I just have it and I forgot that I had it, and then I'm like, oh shit, I still got this car that I could
that would be exciting.
Yeah, and then I wake up, I'm like, no, I don't have that car, and then I'm a little bit sad about it after. I do love the Aristo though, so I mean it's a tough one, but I do think that's the case. It's like, if you love your car, if you really like it, I mean, IS 300s are cool. I don't know what the going rate is for them right now. and yeah, I don't know what the market looks like, but like, yeah, if you can find a way to hold on to it, like hold on to it and do the other things. It's like,
Yeah.
alter your lifestyle so that you can maintain your hobbies. That's what I would recommend.
Next question.
All right.
Or?
Next one. I got a thing. It's just a slight correction. We were talking about the Blit, and then it reminded me that our buddy, I believe, Zombie Low, wanted me to post a correction, and it's not a full correction. I think I just want to be clear. In another episode, the last episode to be very specific, we talked about Gerard's Blit and how the comp drifters maybe don't understand it.
Mhm.
And I said there's no other Blit like it in North America. Now, I think it could be misinterpreted that I was saying there was no other Blit in North America, which is not what I was saying. I was saying, as far as I know, there is no other 6-speed converted Blit like Gerard's in North America. There's no
I don't know either. Not that I
one
know.
day. If there is, and if you know someone, you point him in my direction. He did say that his girlfriend drives a Blit and she will be manual swapping it. And I said, and at that point, there will be 2. I do know of other Blits, but they're all auto. So that is, they have 1Js or they don't, but they're auto.
And there are definitely other manual Blits for sure. It's just that as far as the CD Pro goes and the CD 6-speed, with all the suspension stuff and being that low, I don't know. I don't really see Blits that low except for maybe 2 or 3 other ones ever before.
Yeah, well, like low ones, Righteous Garage, but he's not
1J
manual, or
he's also not manual. Yeah, it's turbocharged now though.
Yeah, and like our buddy J-Lo has a Blit. So I guess, Gerard, have you seen other manual Blits in North America?
Ooh, North America, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah,
I don't know all the Blits ever, but like I definitely don't know. Like I would assume they have Instagram, or like I would get in contact with them in some way, but I don't know any other manual transmission ones. Yeah, Russia, Japan, definitely.
When I say that, that's what I mean. But if I'm wrong, I would like to be corrected, and I'm write in and tell me so I know.
Tell me about your Blit, your 6-speed Blit.
Also, like, watch, I like misunderstood the conversation. They'd be like, that's not what I was saying. I was like, shit. Anyway, we'll see what happens. All right. Okay, we got another question. I feel like Gerard will fucking love this question. So Spencer Spear wrote in and he said, Ryan, ! Recently found the podcast and I've been loving it. Makes work breeze by. I did have a question that I thought would be great
for the podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Good job, Gerard.
With the JZX GX100s becoming.
Did he send it? Did he send it to you?
Yeah. That's my question too.
When the minute Gerard said the words, I knew Gerard was looking angry.
I just thought that's how everybody writes it. So how dare you write to me and then write to Gerard with the same question? Gerard, do you want to finish the question because you have it?
I can, sure, yeah.
Obsolete. Yeah, you finish the question because it turns out Spencer didn't trust me to ask the question properly.
I have to find it.
Also, I feel like I should tell people like the best time to ask a question. I don't know if that's fair. While you find it, it's like, so
got it.
Oh, okay. Then I won't tell people.
No, tell people the best time to ask
would be
right after one.
Right after an episode comes out, between the Wednesday that the episode comes out, because then we record the following week. So within like a week of the following episode coming out is the best time to ask a question. In fact, if you did it the Monday after an episode came out, that would be the best time because then it's like fresh right there. But ask anyway, and I will try to remember to always ask the question. Gerard, take it away.
Okay, so the question says, so Spencer Spear asks, hey, Gerard, recently found the podcast, been loving it, makes work breeze by. I did have a question that I thought would be great for the podcast. With JZX/GX100s becoming more prevalent down in the States, is there any knowledge y'all could give to us American folk to ensure the longevity of these cars? I know a lot of my friends have issues with finding maintenance items like GX100 brakes. Also, just common things we should know to make these street shredders. Thanks, and keep up the great work, guys.
Hey, wait, what did you respond?
I said, thank you. That's not a bad idea at all. I can bring that up this Wednesday.
Oh, man. I wrote, yo, right on. Great question. Gerard will have tons of insight into this! Exclamation point. Take it away, Gerard.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a pretty good influx of X100s. Let's say, a lot of people bringing in GXs, bringing in JZX NAs, and obviously everybody wants to bring in, the creme de la creme Tour V, Roulette G, like turbo, JZX cars. I feel like there's definitely like a bit of a learning curve that people sort of don't understand. People see the cars, they don't know that they're actually totally different cars. The GX varies greatly from the JZX, and the two JZXs, NA and turbo, also vary like fairly significantly between the two of them. Maintenance for a GX car, I would just say don't maintain a GX car, just upgrade it. Like if you're going to buy GX 100 brakes, you should probably just not do that. Just buy an upgraded JZX brake or whatever. The front brakes are fairly compatible with like IS stuff, so just like buy that. The rear brakes, however, are kind of a huge nightmare on 9100s. People are trying all sorts of different, like, using IS brakes, this and that, but like just bite the bullet and buy new shit from Japan. That's literally all you can do for the rear rotors, is just buy new ones from Japan. Just order them right away, and then they'll come when you sort of need them. Probably spend about, huh?
I just said, yeah, hopefully you order them before you need them.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's going to take like 1 to 3 to 5 months, maybe. I mean, they're available in Japan at like, your average Lordco or Pet Boys. So you can get those ones from like Amiyama or whatever. But yeah, they're expensive. People don't want to spend money, but like, you could use an IS adapter, some of that stuff now, IS adapters, this and that, but like, are they better? Not really. So the front brakes are they're not the same. Like the GX obviously has the smallest brakes. They're kind of crap. I think the two JZXs have the same front brakes. I might be mistaken. Obviously the turbo has the best brakes, but front brake upgrades are cheap anyways. Just change the fucking brakes. Like if you got worn out GX brakes, put some IS brakes on it, or put a brake upgrade like from, SCG or whatever on it. Like just get some better front brakes, because that's like going to be the biggest thing ever. The rear brakes, just upgrade to the turbo brakes. You're going to buy new ones anyways. The thing is, I don't think the calipers are like even compatible with anything. They're just like their own caliper, but then, yeah, just buy the turbo rotors. And I think the bracket might be different or some shit. And then maintenance items, like you're going to have to upgrade. Like if you have a GX or even a JZX NA, like your rear lower control arms are wrong. Like there's no sway bar, like all this other stuff. Like don't maintain those cars, just upgrade them. Just go for the best stuff. And then, I don't know, just buy a bunch of SerialNine stuff. Pretty much.
I will say, and I don't know if I'm very biased. For this being a SerialNine podcast, I feel like we don't actually plug the SerialNine.
I agree. We're not like, like buy SerialNine, buy SerialNine. Yeah. Like we're totally not.
I was like gonna ask a question. It was like, should we ever try to find sponsorship for this? And I was like, but technically we're sponsored by SerialNine. And then I was like, but we don't like fully plug, like we tried, but like
this episode is sponsored by SerialNine.
Yeah, honestly, I thought about that the other day. It's like we should just do one where like we make a little ad where it's like, this episode is brought to you by Serial 999 Control Arms.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then like you just make a bunch of them and then like play one in the middle of the podcast.
That's a good idea. We should let's do that. Let's do that.
I'm just gonna play this part now. Yeah. So Kevin, say your thing again. What is this episode brought to you by?
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Serial 999 Control Arms.
Check out our new billet series. We have JZX 100 rear uppers pre-ordering now.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, you know?
Because we're never getting sponsorship from the people that we want sponsorship from, which is Porsche. And
Rambo.
Rambo, is that okay?
Work wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
some sort of tire
No.
company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the other one, Ryan?
I said
Socks.
I said Me Undies because I feel like that is a company that sponsors every podcast.
Me Undies? What the hell is Me Undies?
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like
company.
Yeah.
Exactly what it is.
I feel like probably like since we're talking about those cars and the influx of them, we should probably discuss a little bit like the differences between them or why you would want one versus another one or not want one or whatever. So,
I mean, that sounds like it could be a video, but we could also do it right now. Let's do it.
I mean, you could briefly talk about it because people might be
joking.
listening.
I just want you to make it a video.
Yeah, we can make it a video. But I mean, okay, so there's 3 levels. Like 3 main levels. There's obviously many different levels of these cars. There's the GX, the JZX NA, and then the JZX Turbo. Everybody wants a JZX Turbo, but prices on those right now are basically like, I don't know, $25K, probably more. And then there's the rest of the stuff, which is probably, let's say around 10K, right? They're probably, what do you think the prices are right now of 100s, Kevin? Probably like for the non-turbo stuff, 10 to 15K.
Or not like a non-turbo JZX?
Yeah. Or like just, any other JZX besides a turbo.
Yeah.
Like a 100. Okay. So the thing is, people are selling GXs for almost the same price as JZXs. And I'm talking about JZX NAs. And like, that's totally fucked because GXs are basically garbage. People see the car, they say, oh yeah, it's basically the same thing. You know, it just has a different engine, this and that. It's not the same thing. A lot of the shit on the GX is kind of junk. Like you'll spend a lot of money.
It's like an SR5 to GTS. It's like you're converting so much.
Yeah. Or for example, like a DX Civic to a Type R.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you could totally build that, but like you might as well buy a Type R or at least an SIR because it has, you know, a twin cam engine and like disc brakes on the back and all the other shit that like you're going to have to convert to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, GX is different. Everything's crap on it. Brakes are crap. Sway bars are crap. Engine's crap. The shit's on the wrong side. You know, the interiors are kind of the same, basically, but like some of the stuff, like I don't know, my car doesn't have telescope, whereas like all the other cars have a tilt and telescope. Mine is chinsed out. It just has the tilt, which is like not a big deal, but like all the other cars have telescopes. So you're kind of like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? You know, and then, yeah, the brakes are way different. So you're going to have to upgrade brakes. But if you buy a turbo, you don't have to upgrade the brakes. If you buy an NA JZX, you don't really have to upgrade the brakes. You're basically getting an IS 300 level car if you buy an NA car. You know what I mean? The axles are usable. The diff is usable. The GX, none of that shit's usable. It's all junk. So yeah, you're going to spend a lot of money. You're buying a GX for a ton of money, spending a ton of money to make it into it. You know what I mean? Like a JZX. So you can just buy an NA JZX and you get your halfway there.
Fair. I watched Gerard work on the Blit, which is originally a GX. GX. And then it's always fun watching Gerard discover that something that should be the same isn't the same. Like the steering rack, like you went to put the bushing on, you're like, why doesn't this fit?
Yeah. And also the steering's slower on the GXs, so it's kind of like it's sort of lame. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, perfect example is like we got the Blit AC working now with this box from Russia or whatever. So it's on a standalone. AC and defrost finally work. But guess what else is cool that it does? So it pegs the stock temp meter, which like whatever, you're not paying attention to it because now you have an aftermarket temp gauge. But like, it's not cool to see like a peg temp gauge. Every car guy is programmed to see that like, hey, like something's wrong. But like, okay, now I can look at my like, you know, actual temperature and it says 205. That's fine. Also, it turns on the oil light. So like now I'm like driving down the road and I'm just like freaking out. I'm like, well, shit, my oil light's on, like oil pressure light. But then luckily I have a gauge that says, hey, your oil pressure is fine, 100 PSI or 90 PSI or whatever it is. But yeah, so like these are all the things you're going to deal with. Like, or you can get some super duper crazy expensive harness that like fixes all this shit, but like, or you can just buy the turbo one or buy an NA1 and turbocharge it and like just keep all the other stuff working fine because it works fine. Whereas the GX, you literally have to change the entire everything. So
I think that's an interesting way to look at it, because I think most people, and are Nissans built the same way? Like,
kind of, yeah.
Nissan
You can buy
the
like
same thing.
Like for example, if you bought a Skyline, right? You could buy a 4-bolt. I think the lowest Skyline is still a 6-cylinder, but like it could very well be like a non-turbo 2-liter 4-bolt Skyline, and that's basically what a GX is. It's like
that's what Cedric had. He had like I swear his like 4-door was like a 4-bolt car.
Yeah, 4-bolt and a 2-liter. Like it just looks like a Skyline. That's literally all it is. Is like
right.
You could build that into something cool, but you're literally buying an entire car to build it into a cool car.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're Gerard and you're building a car to build and you're going to change every single thing, does it not maybe make sense to start with that? Like you're going to take out the motor, the transmission, the suspension, the brakes, the subframes, everything anyway.
I agree. But the problem with the US market and the 100s is that people are selling GX cars for JZX money. Like, let's be fucking very clear. GX cars are worthless. Like, nobody should pay more than like $5,000 to $7,000. I guess because you have to get it there or whatever. Nobody should pay more than $5,000 to $7,000 US, and even that's a fucking stretch for a GX car. And people are selling GXs for like 10, 12K. It's like, no, man. Like GXs are not worth 10K at all. Not a fucking chance in hell. Like for reference, my GX car was what US less than $2,000 landed. So
historically, we've said things are worth whatever people are willing to pay.
That's just it, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know. But I was going to say, and this is the interesting thing, is that if you don't know this stuff, and it's like, I would even say like 20-year-old me or a teenage me would look at a car, and the only thing you're kind of measuring is the horsepower output. You're not thinking about the brakes or how quick the steering is. It's like a Type R is the best because it has the best engine, and it has has some extra like
racing.
When I was 20, like if you put like the 90 beside the 100, beside the GX, beside the LS, beside the Aristo, I couldn't tell you the difference between any of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, because like the nuances and the tiny changes that Toyota makes are, you could literally be like looking at a 100 Chaser and be thinking you're getting a JZX, and you're not, and you don't know.
Especially, I mean, not a lot of the ones I see are modified, but like now that the Japanese are becoming savvy with the whole like market, it's very easy to make a GX look pretty or look cool. Like they're all the same externally. I mean, maybe the lights are different and shit, but like you don't know the difference between like S1 GX lights and fucking S2 Tour V lights.
Those lights are easy to change too, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Lights, very easy thing to upmarket.
For sure. Except when you have to wire in the HIDs and all that stuff. But yeah, like it's definitely doable. But yeah, like the body kit fits on, the wheels fit on, the suspension fits on. It's all the same as far as like the broad strokes. But when you start getting into the little stuff, you're like, oh shit.
That's the nuances that only Gerard would understand, like how fast the turn signal
stop.
Yeah. Whoa, this is a GX throw for sure. They fucking tried to bamboozle me with this car. Yeah. I will say this. I actually, I'll be very honest and transparent. Probably even until I met you guys, I would say like, look, the 2J is the best Toyota engine. Like it's the 1J it has the number 1 in it. The 2 is 2. Like it's better.
It's a higher number.
It's 2 1Js.
It's 2. 1Js. Like it's in the Supra. Like that is, and you look and it's like that's the one that people ranted and raved about. And there's a lot of publicity around this engine and the amount of power that it makes. So then you think anything that has a 2J in it must be great. And then you actually like start talking about it, and you're like, oh, the 1J might actually be the better. Anyway, I'm not going to say it fully, but that's fine. And then it's just a very interesting thing because not a lot of people, I think, actually look at cars that way. Like it is. I said 20 when I was in my 20s or like a teenager, and I was lying. I probably still would have been like a 30-year-old being like, just bring me the car that has the best engine.
Yeah.
And then if you don't see that, you're like, bring me the car that looks like the car that I like, that I can put a better engine in it. And that's why I was asking, like, does Nissan do the same thing? Because it's like,
I do.
You know, you might get a North American S13 and then be like, but I'm just going to put an SR20 in it, or I'm going to blah, 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 or, you know, like, or.
Yeah, that's basically what you're getting with a US market. Like, let's say like a 92 S13 from North America is 4-bolt. Well, I mean, I guess none of the S13s were 4-bolt, but yeah, let's say, okay, let's start with a 14. So like a US, did we get 4-bolt S14s here?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did 100%.
But yeah, they still all had twin cams. But I mean, yeah, like for example, you get a single cam KA S13, which is basically super bare bones. And then versus like a 180 SX, like RPS 13 or something, you know what I mean? Like it's a vastly different car. Everything's better about that other car.
Good.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, is a Tourer V, like, turbo JZX worth 25 grand? Not really. You know what I mean? Like in our books, that's why none of us have those cars, because we're just like, that's like, we know what those cars used to sell for. And like, there's no way they're worth that much now.
I don't think that's why none of us have those cars.
Partially why.
I think it's because we're all a bit weirdos. Anyway, we've always said, like, we've all said, or no, we haven't all said, but because I get very irate about prices of cars for no reason. Keeps me up at night. But we've talked about this at length of, prices of cars going up and like, and I've said, like, is that car worth that much? And like, I argue with my friend Eric Zapata all the time about what an S15 is actually worth.
Yeah, it's not 50K.
It's fine. Yeah, he's fine to tell me that it's 50K or 65K because he has one. And I firmly believe that every S15 owner in North America took like a blood pact to like back the outrageous number that they attach to a car. And it's like, and I'm always like, is an S chassis actually worth 65,000, 55,000? And I'm like, I've had a S13 and I feel like even if it's a little bit better than an S13, like even if it's twice as good as an S13, I don't think an S15 should be worth that much. But the popular answer we always give is like whatever the market will allow. And it's like, I kind of agree because I'd want as much money for my car as possible. Not selling it because of Good Boy's question, but I don't think we don't drive 100s because of that. Like we could have all had for 9 grand or $7,500.
I guess what I'm saying is like the Tourer V, like full spec. It's like they are expensive and they are like, I don't know, like I guess what I was getting at is like, for example, you buy an auto.
But like Ryan,
V.
like you could, if you really wanted to, you could sell your car and probably get a Tourer, But like, would you and have you? Like, no. And that's the thing. It's like part of me, sometimes I look at Carter Jackson's car and I'm like, in theory, I could have bought that car. Like I could have had a car like that. I could have had a 100. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of different for me, and I don't want to derail it too much, but I think that I was raised on North American automotive media. Mm-hmm. So the 2GS had way more like prevalence in that media than like Japanese media. It's a thing that I saw more. And then when you told me that car had a 2J in it and I could get it with a 5-speed if I found it, which is what I did, I was like, yeah, that's the fucking car for me. Mm-hmm. There was a point where I stopped and I was like, man, maybe I should have bought a fucking Chaser. Like maybe I should have been on that like
option shit and been like, yeah, that's a ticket. But no, I like bought the car that I would see at car meets and be like, oh, that's cool, but it'd be way better if it had a 2J in it. So I don't know. And like Kevin, you drift in Altezza, which is essentially the same. It's an IS. Yeah. Gerard, up until the Blit, had an Aristo.
Mm-hmm. I will tell you this.
Anyway, go on.
Going from the Cressida, to the 110, totally different cars. Like the 110 is totally different. It doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't really identify as an X chassis. Let's say it's very like refined, modern. It does actually feel like quite a bit nicer, but then again, I do have like a bunch of sound ending and shit in my Blit, and it's a wagon, so it's like a bit, different. But now that I have 100 and I drive the 100 every day, it literally is a Cressida. 100%. Like,
it's kind of weird though, because it like sure it is. It's a JZX 110, but it's like, is my car a JZX? Like, I don't consider my car a JZX, but it's like it has the exact same underpinnings as the JZX 110.
Right, but your car is also shorter and lighter and chintzier, so it's like it would probably be like a truncated JZX 110 or some shit, like a lightweight truncated.
Yeah. It feels that like with that, I never consider any car that has like my suspension a JZX, even though like
that's what I mean. It feels different. It does feel different.
Yeah.
But like now having been intimate with a 100 for like a decent amount of time, like I mean, you never had an X8, but like the trunk, the proportions, the like sort of the greenhouse proportion to the body and like the way that it moves and everything, it totally feels like a Cressida, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, honestly, even like the minute you sit in it, it feels like
And especially
I remember like we always said that about like every 100 that we get in. We're like, oh man, this is so like reminds
it feels like home.
It feels homey. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But
it's like funny though. Sorry, I was just gonna say it's funny though that like that's kind of like where your guys' roots are, and then not that you turned your back on it.
No, that's what I mean.
Back on, like
we totally did, and that's why like
feels like home. Fuck like home.
100%. Exactly. Now I'm
going away.
Yeah, and then for the longest time, I wanted to build that like a successor to my yellow X8, which was going to be a nicer X8. But maybe the whole time I should have just built an X10, which is kind of what I'm going to do now. You know what I mean? I'm building the successor to my yellow car. It just happens to be 2 generations newer. But in fact, it feels exactly the fucking same.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, it's rad, honestly. Like, it's really cool to drive. Like, it just feels lighter and like sportier. I mean, sporty is a relative term, but like sportier and like quicker than the Aristo. But yeah, even
how dare you? Go on.
Even kind of more so than the 110. The 110 feels very like new school. The 100 still feels old school. It's very analog.
Yeah. Do you think that is that the last of it then? Is that like the last of that feel? Maybe that's why the 100 has that vibe to it.
I kind of think so, man. I definitely think it's a vibe compared to the 110. I mean, the 110 deviates so much from that lineage that it's kind of like maybe it's a bit of a disconnect. Maybe that's the thing. Like, not only is the Blit too weird, but like the Mark II even is too fucking weird. And then the Verosa is just like so fucking weird. They're just like, you call that an X chassis? Like, is it a Chaser? Like, is it a Mark II? Is that the Cresta? No, it's a Verosa. You're like, oh, what? Like, oh, okay, sure. Like,
let's be clear.
I don't know about that one. You know what I mean?
The Verosa is the weirdest of all cars. I know you guys don't feel that way about it, but I do. It is a very.
I mean, it's weird, but it's like it's also weird in a good way, though. You know?
Yeah.
But also, speaking of which, I had a Verosa for like a very long time, and I daily drove that, and it was auto and turbo and had coilovers. So basically, sort of the exact same thing I'm driving right now, but mine is 100 now, and then I had the 110, and it never felt like a Cressida. Like, it never ever felt. But also, like, the interior is way sicker. The dashboard's very, very different. Like even the door panels, the exterior is vastly different. Like, it doesn't even really look like a traditional sedan. Whereas like the 100, the dashboard is still basically just a fucking Cressida dash that like is slightly modernized. It literally looks like a Cressida dashboard. The door panels look like Cressida door panels, just with like different fabric and slightly different shapes. You know what I mean?
Well, welcome home, Gerard. Welcome home.
One thing I was going to say though is like, so you get an NA one for 10K and you get a turbo one for 20K. Let's say an auto turbo, and it's like you're still going to spend, I don't know, 5 to 7K manual swapping that fucking turbo. And like you're, you know, like you get a few goodies with the turbo, like you get the not really the bigger diff.
Axles and the brakes.
No, the diff's the same. You get the bigger axles and the stub shafts, but the diff is the same. The brakes are slightly different, but like brakes definitely can be upgraded. But
sway
you can
bars.
Sway bars. I mean, you're probably gonna upgrade sway bars.
I mean, I've very few people upgrade sway bars, but yes.
I mean, I've upgraded all the sway bars. But yeah, like you can turbo.
You're not very few people.
Yeah, you're not very few people. Exactly.
I don't know if you've listened to any of that
sway bars.
podcast.
Anyways, you can turbocharge the NA ones, like just like an NAT, just like an NAT IS300, you can have an NAT Chaser or whatever 100, and you can make 300 wheel horsepower, whatever it is. So like that might be a better route, and that's without even opening the motor. So like for that 10K difference, you could get the 6-speed, you could get the turbo, and maybe build the motor or buy a standalone or aero or whatever the fuck you want, and have like a kind of a way sicker car that isn't the exact turbo car, but like now you've achieved and maybe even surpassed a stock turbo car for less money or equal money. So something to think about.
Listen,
you got yourself something unique, bud. You got yourself something unique that not everybody has.
I see what you're doing here, and that's great. But I wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
but that's fine. My dad, we've talked about this before, was always
just buy the
best version of what it is. But that isn't actually, that's not the Kevin and Gerard way.
No,
buy it that has the things that you need in it, and then go from there.
Also, speaking of which, I was in Danny's Chaser today, which is a Tourer V, and that interior fucking sucks, man. Like it's got the lines and it's like navy blue. Like the sporty door panels.
Yeah, it's definitely not as like reminiscent of Cressida.
Yeah, they like I don't know. It's
the Cressida is fully like the Cressida.
Yeah, but also like it seems like they tried, and even that like carbon fiber on the dashboard and stuff. It's kind of like it's like super cheesy.
The Kevlar one, like
yeah, I don't know what it is.
I really cannot like.
And it's like I'd rather just have that painted black or fucking something than like this fake ass carbon plastic faded, and then like a blue dashboard. I don't know. I'll take a black or brown. Like I don't know. I think the dashboard in my car's a cool color. It's like brownish, grayish, but the blue is like pretty busted, in my opinion.
All right, I got another question. Or do you want to keep talking about the differences?
No. Next question.
Let's question it. It was actually on YouTube.
Oh.
A YouTube question.
Sick.
Hey, this is a good part to say this. We will move the podcast to
video,
a different YouTube channel. No,
Oh.
what?
Oh.
Gerard, there's no idea what's coming. No, move it to.
I made a SerialNine number 2 YouTube, so we're gonna maybe start putting the podcast on that.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, I don't know if that is going to help us or not.
Yeah, we're experimenting like it's science, you guys. So we want to see. Yeah. All right. But question from the YouTube channel. Right. Street Shaman with 2 N's, which is a fun name. Said Ryan Benoit, which is my full name. Would love to know how you guys feel about left-hand drive swapping imported cars. I used to have a 92 Camry and always wondered if I could left-hand drive swap a JZX90, not to drift, but to have fun with and learn about steering swaps. Used to live in Australia. Right-hand drive was easy to get, but it brings a little too much attention for me in Canada.
There's a local JZX 100 that's been swapped from right-hand drive to left-hand drive.
And also in the Philippines, it was like it has to be left-hand drive to be road legal. So there are definitely left-hand drive converted GTRs, chasers, all sorts of shit. But anyways.
So how do you feel about left-hand drive swapping?
I think it is.
I know what we all think because we cared about it. And I think it's an interesting thing. I prefer having a right-hand drive. We all live in Canada. I love having a right-hand drive. It's fucking cliche. And it's, hey, look at me bullshit. But I don't care. It lets people know what I'm about. I'm about that. I'm about cars from Japan. And then I'm always like, when people are like, oh, but there's a left-hand drive Supra and it's worth this. And I'm like, fuck that shit. I want a right-hand drive Supra. Like, if I can get a car that I like and right-hand drive, I want it in right-hand drive more than I want it in left-hand drive. You can judge me if you want. I don't give a shit. I think the only reason that FD and Supra owners give any shit about having a left-hand drive car is because they're just trying to maintain the value of a car that was very exclusive, that for a period of time in Canada became very affordable. And I think they were just trying to protect the market. That's all. I was like, I'd be pissed too if I bought a car for $60,000 and always felt that it was worth $40,000, and then a bunch of teenagers were driving around a $17,000 version of my car. But that's me. So
I get it too. I feel like I've gone through all of this in life. Like in the beginning, I was like, yo, right-hand drive stupid. Like we had our friend Eric, he was all about right-hand drive cars. I was just like, why would you ever get it like a right-hand drive car if you could get the left-hand drive equivalent? I understand like certain cars you can't get, like Skylines and stuff, but then like you said, the Supra or the FD or like a LS400 or a GS, I'm like, why wouldn't you just get the left-hand drive? The entire infrastructure of the entire continent is set up for left-hand drive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree with Ryan. It's like all my cars are basically right-hand drive. Okay. Like I love having a right-hand drive car. Like I think that in Canada there are so many right-hand drive cars that they're not really bringing on much more heat. People like it's a very common thing to see right-hand drive cars. I can't see the point of doing a right-hand drive to left-hand drive swap or left-hand drive to right-hand drive swap for any reason ever.
Yeah.
Unless you live in one of these countries where it's like you can't be driving on the opposite side. That's the only way to get this vehicle.
Yeah.
So that you can drive it. But like,
I have one exception to this rule, one exception to what you just said, but I'll come back to it. I'll let Gerard say it.
Okay. So I agree with Kevin. I think there's no point in right or left-hand drive swapping a vehicle unless it's absolutely necessary. There's definitely a good amount of money involved, a ton of work involved, and the end result is never going to be, let's say, an original. You're never going to make a left-hand drive chaser or whatever you're going to make. Because even so, our local guy, Kyle, jack of all trades, he made a left-hand drive chaser, but it uses an IS300 dash, which is, it's fine for a drift car or whatever. Most people don't even really notice the difference. But like from the outside, especially, but I mean, at the same time, it's not a chaser dash. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, unless you're going to basically completely refabricate the entire interior, you're never going to end up with a good result. It's just going to be like some sort of like butchery hack job, you know what I mean? Of whatever it may be. And then even the firewall, you got to use a firewall out of a different car that was left-hand drive, and all your brake lines, all your everything that, all these nice little clips and everything in your engine bay, then none of that stuff's going to work. So it's all just going to be like hacked up. And so now you spent all this money, done all this work. You finally have a left-hand drive car, and it's kind of like you basically just ruined your car, and spent a bunch of money. Just so that you have less heat. But I do see the other thing that's weird too is like people doing these right or left-hand drive swaps because it's cool. Like, I don't know who it was. There was a YouTube guy.
I feel like that thing's kind of come and gone, but maybe not.
No, it was recent. Somebody did like a right-hand drive swap in like an IS300 or something. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, just buy the Altezza, man. But I mean, I guess if you're in the States, you kind of can't do that. But like, is that a
Yeah.
flex that you have a right-hand drive IS300? Like, is that like the amount of work and money that you put in to get that flex? Like, can you just illegally import an IS, like or illegally import like an Altezza, put the VINs of the IS on it, and then end up with an actual right-hand drive car instead of
it seems like less work.
Yeah, like butchering the firewall and all this other stuff, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like, yeah, I don't know.
All
Back in the day, right-hand drive swap Hondas were cool because you couldn't get them. But because we have this 15-year rule, we literally get every right-hand drive car that you ever possibly kind of could want at this point, really.
Yeah, which now there are none anymore that I feel
Yeah.
like are wanted, which is the problem. So it's like,
yeah.
oh man,
What do you
I
mean,
get?
like an FD or something? What are you talking about?
Well, he's just,
Well, no, I was just like,
like a car that's 15 years out that you're like actually pining for right now, like doesn't really exist.
yeah,
I mean, a lot of the Euro cars. Oh yeah, I mean, another good example, or not a good example, but one of the things, for example, for me, yeah, is like the Porsches. Like a lot of the Porsches in Japan are left-hand drive because they're, you know, from Germany or whatever. But for me, if I was to buy a Porsche from Japan as my own car, I would want it to be right-hand drive. Like to have a right-hand drive Porsche or even a right-hand drive like BMW, like M car is kind of fucking sick, in my opinion.
it's a fun conversation starter.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like if I were to buy an original Mini, I'd much prefer a right-hand drive
for
original
sure.
Mini to a left-hand drive original Mini.
For sure.
And yeah, same thing. It's like, I agree. It's like Ryan, when you were saying it's like, all these people who bought the car when it was like $80,000 and then it was 40,000 and like these kids are getting it for 17 and it's like, they have to hold on to their value. It's like, I agree. It feels that like the people who really want the left-hand drive and are willing to pay $20,000 more for a left-hand drive aren't our generation. Our generation wants the right-hand drive,
Exactly.
and might even pay more for the right-hand drive.
For
like
sure.
If I'm getting a Mark IV or an FD, I want a right-hand drive car.
But that I do think that's a thing. Is like, for example, like that is a not a generational thing, but like not a barrier of entry.
Fucking bullshit is what that was. That is absolutely a barrier of entry. That was somebody being like, I spent a shit ton of money. I have a car and I have a lot of stuff. Like I am of a certain class to be able to afford this car. And then like some snot-to-nose teenager shows up and is like, I also have the same car. And you can be like, nah, but yours is right-hand drive. And it's like, your turbos are like not, like your turbos aren't the same as mine. And it's like, yeah, I upgraded them or I've switched, fuck that shit.
I do feel that was a big Supra thing. Like all right-hand drive Supras were looked down upon for sure. Like compared to like, I have like an original Mark IV USDM 1996, 50,000 original miles, like blah, blah, blah. It's like, so fucking
because then if they had like shit wheel fitment, it didn't matter. Like,
yeah,
there was a point where like you could have a Supra with like shit wheel fitment and like not a cool build, but it was still like cool because it was a Supra. And then like some dude bought a car for way less because that's the way the market was, and they could build a fucking sick car.
But they never did because it was a Mark IV. I'm just kidding.
And then they were just like, you're trying to turn your nose up at some shit, but like chances are the younger person or the person that got the right-hand drive was doing like way more to their car.
It's funny too, because literally every Supra here in BC or maybe even in Canada, that most of the ones that I know, I want to say like 70% of the Supra guys I know are right-hand drive, and they all have between 600 and 800 horsepower and drive their cars on the street. Whereas like every left-hand drive Supra I know, has like 1,000 horsepower, but they never get driven ever. Like fucking never. Like they get driven to the dyno maybe, or like some shit. They park at the fucking racetrack or rip off like a 13-second quarter mile. But like all of the right-hand drive ones are like kind of like more of a sick car. They have nice wheels, nice brakes, like an LSD, like, fucking carbon parts, wide body, nice seats, stereos, like all this. They're nicer cars, so like by fucking far.
Because maybe those people are more into it.
Exactly. They're not like, Supra, like drag car. Yeah,
Yeah. The beauty of what we do and what we're into is it was meant to be, and maybe it'll shift or is shifting, was to take something mildly, like you have something like kind of inexpensive and make it better. The issue of having a left-hand drive car that you spent a lot of money on, and then trying to be like, I'm going to keep it in really good shape in case I ever need to sell it for top dollar. It's fine, but that's a different mentality than what we're actually into. It's like, I want the car with the rolled fenders. I want the car with like the single turbo, and like I want all of those things. And from the perspective of a left-hand drive Supra person, I understand why maybe they would be less willing to do that. And then of course it's gonna like fucking piss you off when somebody else shows up and does it better on like a car that they paid way less for. But I don't know, man. I've always thought that was like dumb, watching like people be like, oh, that's a right-hand drive, so it's not worth as much. It's like, I don't fucking care, man. I want the one from Japan. I like Japanese cars. Give me the car that was like, it's from the motherland, you know? Like, fuck.
Yeah, and it's also kind of like, I guess, like exotic. Like, there's nothing more exotic than a car that has a fucking different language on the dashboard or on, you know what I mean? And in the stereo or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, cool, your Supra, you know what I mean, like, is original, but like my Supra is completely different. Like it's exotic because it's from a fucking different country.
I feel like there's fully levels to that though, because it's like, yeah, sure, like, yeah, it's like, oh, like my shit's more exotic because it like has Japanese on the dash, and it's like, but then like we also like the minute we get it, like rip out the like talking Japanese toll thing, and like, you know what I mean, and it's like people probably like they think that's the coolest part of their car, and it's just like that's the first thing we throw in the garbage.
There's definitely levels. Like my car came with like every Japanese car comes with some stupid deck, like carrozzeria, like my BMW right now has like an iPad that you like clip into the thing, and it's like navigation, and it has like a fucking 6-disc changer under the dashboard and all this stuff, and like I'm sure somebody thinks it's cool. I sure as fuck don't. Like, I don't want to, like, all of our Navi systems in our right-hand drive in our Japanese cars just say we're in the ocean, like 24/7. You're in the ocean, like, and it's like it's cool for like 5 seconds.
Maybe it's telling the future. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, it's cool for like 5 seconds, and then you're just like, I mean, not that I need navigation, but I would probably I need it, I prefer that it actually worked. You know what I mean? So
I don't know. So I will say, the original question to that, like converting it, well, not, it's a variation of the original question, converting from one like left-hand drive to right-hand drive. If I'm not mistaken, our pal Josh / Revgasm from Proceed, that S13 was converted to right-hand drive.
Oh, really?
And why was it converted to right-hand drive? But now here's the thing:
to make it cooler.
Well, Josh is a pretty like meticulous dude, and I know he sometimes listens to the podcast. So if I'm wrong, he can correct me. But I believe it was done because he knew that one day he would go to Japan and drift, and he didn't want there to be a learning curve of when he got into a right-hand drive. He's like, I'm going to learn on a right-hand drive to drift, and I'm going to carry that forward. And that was part of the reasoning behind it.
I mean, that's like a pretty legit reason.
Also, he's like originally a Honda guy, so
maybe that's part of it. Yeah.
Point. Yeah, probably like what Gerard said earlier, probably played into it. But yeah, so I would say that's not the worst reason. I don't know, but yeah, I think Simba for a long time wanted just like a right-hand drive Supra shell. Like that was his like, just like get me the shell for cheap so I can build this Supra. So, Street Shaman, I do like your question, but would I ever do it? No, I am like, like Gerard's point is pretty good about that. I think like it's never going to be 100%.
I mean, there are definitely some aspects of right-hand drive in North America that suck. Like the left turns, The biggest one for me is passing. You can't pass. Like you have to hang back, gauge the cars, and then do this move. It's like, it's not safe. It's just legit. It's like not
a
safe.
younger me had no problem with it. I will say that. Me and the S13 would be on like undivided highway and would figure it out.
I have no problem with it on like a main highway, but when you're on like a 2-lane highway,
yeah, undivided, I believe is the term we use. No,
I'm sorry for not dividing.
Get your mathematician skills right, Kevin.
It happens to me almost. Used to happen to me like daily on the way home, because I'd have to take this Colebrook Road, and it's a long stretch of like two-way traffic, and you always get stuck behind some fucking slow ass person. And in my normal left-hand drive vehicle, my truck, I would either just fucking pass 1 or 2 or 6 cars, but in my right-hand drive car, I'm just like, I'm just going to be behind this guy. But I mean, so what? That's a pretty small trade-off for a right-hand drive. You know what I mean?
I used to, like I said, when I had the 180 in Saskatchewan, if I was driving in like undivided highway, I would either check, like, people will think this is dumb, but whatever. 2 options. If my now wife was with me, she would tell me if it was clear to go, or I would veer off into the shoulder a bit, look past the car. And then I always said that the car was faster than what I was used to having before that. Yeah. So it made up for like the margin of error. It was like, my left-hand drive Mazda was easier to see, but it didn't accelerate as fast or go
if your
as
car's
fast
fast enough, you could do anything.
And exactly. So make your car faster so you can do anything.
You can more safely pass.
You just fly. I mean, if you ever pass in a fucking Taycan, it's safe as fuck. The car's just standing still. You're just like, boop, gone. Like 8 cars, no problem.
Shit. Good.
So anyways, what's the next question, or what's the next topic?
Oh, I feel like we've answered all of the questions. Do we have anything else?
I did not have any questions this time.
One thing I wanted to tell you, Ryan, that I think is the fucking craziest thing ever about the BMW. So it's right-hand drive. It's a little bit to do with the right-hand drive, left-hand drive thing. So for maybe people that don't know, left-hand drive, the signals are on the left. The wipers, most of the time, wipers are on the right. That's normal. So when you go to right-hand drive, the signals are on the right. The wipers are on the left. That's like pretty normal to like put your wipers on when you want to signal sometimes when you first get into a right-hand drive car. So the BMW, they took all the left-hand drive stuff and put it on the right. So the signal is on the left side of a right-hand drive car and the wipers are on the right side. It is such a mind fuck.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Like you have to fully think, like you have to kind of like learn. Like you already thought you learned the left-hand drive for driving for 25 years. I learned the right-hand drive for driving, 15 years. And now I got to learn this other fucking thing. It's like,
sell it.
In the right-hand drive, I drive with my right hand on the wheel so you could, use the signals and stuff. Yeah. But now I got to drive with my left hand on the wheel on the right side. It's super weird. Anyways, whatever.
Oh, shit. This reminded me actually a little bit. I don't know if this can go on the, it can go on the podcast, and I don't know if there's anything there, but I'll try. Do you know a Lorenzer? Is that how you say it?
Lorenzer, yeah.
Lorenzer, okay.
Lorenzer, yeah.
I did not know what this was. And then there is a guy down the street from me that lives in a house, and he has to street park his S550.
Holy shit.
It's like not the newest generation.
But I mean, an S550 Lorenzer is either really, really, really expensive and new or a Japanese car.
Oh, it's definitely from Japan.
I don't know. I don't think it's from Japan. I'll look, but
I'm sure you never see them not from Japan.
Yeah, like because they're so expensive that like nobody buys them. But all the ones that were like, especially an S550, that's
Is it like white and have like fiberglass arrow?
Yes, and it has black, and they made it has like the turbine style.
I swear I even know the car you're talking about. Yeah.
And it's funny because we had the conversation about like street parking your car. And I'm always like the Aristo, like, you know, the car that's my favorite always goes underground, but this guy can't. And every time I drive by, he's outside looking at the car. And I'm like, man, this guy like loves this car. I've never seen it not there. So maybe he works from home or something. I don't know. But I'm like, man, he loves this car. And I didn't really know what was up with it because like I don't know anything about Euro cars. I saw the badge on the back and I was like, it's got a kit on it that looks kind of funky and black wheels. But yeah, like I was just like, what a different mentality. It's like I'll drive by and there'll be people on his like kind of like front stoop and it's like, are you just making sure nobody fucks with your car? Like every time he's always looking at this thing. And then I think, you know, like it's a pleasant treat whenever I see my Aristo and I'm like reminded that I have it. But like maybe this guy likes his car more than I like my car, which is wild to me. I don't know. So that is like that's a fancy car.
Yeah, it's a good car.
Yeah, good car. Did you ever have one?
Would I have one?
Yeah.
Would you take it over a Charger?
Yes, 100%.
Did you take it over a Type R?
Probably.
I mean, you have to.
Yeah, you have to.
So you take the Charger over the Type R, and you take that over the Charger.
Euro, right?
Yeah. Man, it's only been like 2 weeks, Gerard, and you've already like faltered.
Forget.
I forgot that I said I would never take a Type R. All right. Anyway, so that are they expensive?
Lorenzers?
Yeah.
I mean, a Japanese one, probably not so much. I mean, the newest it could possibly be is 2008. I mean, that's probably like a $20,000 car, 25. Like old Benzes are not really worth a lot.
Yeah, you get a 2007 S550 for $18,500 apparently.
Yeah.
This other 2007 S550 is $9,000.
I don't know. Yeah, every time I drive by, he's just outside looking at his car. I'm like, man, this guy fucking loves his car, which I think is great.
Yeah,
but that's a different level of how much I love my car.
You're not out there loving it enough.
Not out there looking at my car, inviting people over to stand around and look at my car. Yeah,
he's a different type of person, bro.
Well, I mean, that's all.
If you're looking for a JZX 100 NA, I got one for sale. It's Cresta. Check it out on my IG.
This episode was brought to you by Gerard.
This episode was brought to you by European Japanese car, BMW 189, also for sale. I'm just kidding.
All of everything Gerard has is for sale, so he can finish his basement.
2003 Stagia on 19-inch G37S wheels, also for sale. Great car. 2.5 NA.
IS300,
Okay.
Never drifted.
Altezza never drifted.
Yeah,
Altezza's definitely been drifted.
It has a lot of the Altezza has a lot of scars on it now. Hey,
not so much.
Well, you cut your rear thing so it wouldn't melt. Your rear bumper has scratched.
Like a small scar.
Would you ever buy a new rear lip or a rear like arrow for it, or you just don't care?
At this point, I think I'm kind of done on that one.
All right, everybody. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man.
All right.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you. All right. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for supporting the podcast, guys. It's been really awesome to see all the people's comments and to see how many people's lives we enlighten with our podcast. Everyone's like, yo, I listened to you at work. It's sick. I'm like, thank you. That's really cool to hear.
How many people do you think that don't want to hear us talk have to listen to us talk at somebody like at their work? You know, like
probably not that many. I think like if you don't want to listen to it, don't fucking listen to it. You know what I mean?
I just meant like if they had it on a stereo. Like I know like Exner just plays it in the tattoo parlor. So like people that have no interest in cars, they just want to get inked up, are like listening to us talk shit about cars, which is pretty funny.
Oh, well.
Anyway, that's the price you pay.
Exactly.
All right. All right. Thanks for listening. Check you on the flip side.
Yeah.
Liberty flap.
Thanks for listening to Serial Podcast 9.